In question that I have. Actually, I was coming, listening to a podcast on YouTube, and someone mentioned tax to be a big elephant. So, first of all, the reason that he mentioned was huge syllabus, the two books
Understood.
that you have, and always there's a technique to manage such, huge syllabus because tax has a very wide area. So, how do you actually suggest students to manage such syllabus in especially 2 or 2.5 months? Because after 2.5 months, you are preparing for mocks otherwise also. So, how
Yes,
would you
agreed,
suggest
agreed.
them?
I would say that yes, it is a fact that when you see in your skill syllabus, tax has got the most vast syllabus.
Yeah.
It's not that it is very difficult, but it is so vast that the vastness makes the student sometimes feel that I'm forgetting things. So
Hmm.
I always suggest students to divide this paper into blocks.
Right.
Okay, first block is complete individuals,
Individual.
because there is a reason to it, because section C, one question is always on individuals. So
Okay.
have that full block. And I'll tell you one more problem is there with taxes, which students always face, that ma'am, we don't find individual questions in the, chapter wise in the exam kit.
Exam gets right.
So basically, it's because you have hybrid questions always asked. So students should also get used to solving hybrid questions, because
Okay.
when you solve hybrid question is basically a question will test maybe 10 to 12 of the different areas.
Hmm.
Right. So
Right.
then when the more you solve these questions, the more comfortable you will be with all these topics.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that is why I say first block would be your individual section.
Hmm.
Second block would be your corporations. Third block would be your IHT.
IHT.
Fourth block would be your VAT.
That.
These are the four areas that according to which you should study and you should plan your studies. So for me, suppose there are 10 chapters, there are 15, 16 chapters in the individual block. That's the biggest one.
Hmm.
Okay, so now if that would not mean that I would do the questions always chapter wise. Let me complete a substantial portion, then let's go into those hybrid questions which are asking those.
Okay.
But at the same time, it doesn't mean that individual chapter questions or topic questions are not asked. Your section A is for that.
Right.
So you have section A checking your technical understandings for the specific areas, right? So if you have to be a master in section C, you have to be smarter for section A.
Right.
So this is what I believe. This is how you should break your syllabus and study in this pattern.
So this was all about the syllabus that you talked that you can actually divide it into
Yes.
four blocks. So how would you suggest the exam kit? Because I need to actually cover individual as well as corporate in order to do the corporate, a hybrid question. So do I have to actually wait for the substantial to cover, or should I actually pick questions from exam kit depending
Yeah.
upon topics?
See, yes. So what I suggest is initially please pick questions from the exam kit.
Hmm.
And then, as you complete questions, some questions are very smaller portions of corporations
Right.
comparing to the individuals.
Right.
So we can choose those questions also. For if you've not done corporations, leave that portion for the time being. Mark it.
Right.
Come back to it when you're done with corporations. So you're not losing on your practice as well. And there are many questions in the exam kit that are mainly focusing on employment, self-employment, losses. These three prime main areas plus chargeable gains also.
Yeah.
So you have the cluster of questions that are that are concentrating on these angles. So in the meantime, cover those questions.
Okay. Okay. That's a
There
great.
are around 500 questions also that you can practice. Okay, so it's just a pool of questions. The more questions you practice, the more better you are. And seeing that, I know some of us, some of the students don't try to take the pain of doing the practice, so they try to proofread, but that's not the correct way.
I guess
So
you
you should
cannot.
practice more questions.
Yeah, you cannot run away from practice when it comes to tax paper. You may skip for FI for some, but you cannot do it for tax at all.
Yeah, that is true. Even for audit, I would say like you
Yeah.
the that you teach, unless a student writes and practice, I don't think that the
No.
person will get the confidence of writing in the exam, right?
Right, right. Actually, the most of the case that I am getting for myself is the second attempt because, ma'am, I did not score in the first attempt. The first question that I asked, did you write and practice? Ma'am, I actually practiced one or two questions. That is where you are lagging. You need to practice.
Exactly.
So that's
Yeah,
where
that's
I
true.
guide them that, dude, you need to write and check and get it evaluated. So that's how the trail is.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, that's a very nice technique. And also, when I used to study tax, my teacher always suggested me to make a actually flowchart of every chapter, because you cannot go back and read full chapter. So you just have summarized in one page. You stick to your board and you see it daily. So that's a technique that I followed personally, and it was very helpful. Like the
Yeah,
chart.
so I do that thing for my students most of the time. I give them short notes. I give them notes that is to be that. I mean, those notes are, you just see those notes. They're not very big notes. They're concise notes covering everything. Sometimes presented in a flow chart, sometimes in a tabular form, sometimes in a columnar form. I mean, different forms. The only thing is that the moment students wants to see revise the chapter in 10 minutes, these notes are the ones to go to. And
That's
of course, creating along with your lecture notes, I believe creating a self notes are equally essential.
very,
So,
very.
because you know yourself better how you can study well.
Yeah. I know. I actually always wanted my teacher to make notes for me, but I won't take any names. But yeah, she didn't do that. So I had to actually rely upon myself. But I always love teachers who make, provide their notes, because that is something coming from an expert or a mentor. So she know
Yes.
where you are going wrong, or you actually 100 students have already gone wrong. So she has
Yeah.
covered on those notes. So that's very nice of you that you actually provide notes for that student.